Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Presently, we are here in your past, speaking to you in our future. It boggles the mind. You are turning into special spin-off episode of Brothers from Another Mothership podcast, BFAM Classified File 3. BFAM Classified is outside our normal monthly video game podcast from four brothers from other mothers, which may or may not involve extraterrestrial life. But if you could rate the show 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice, we greatly appreciate it. I am Quagmire, also known as the Quaggy King of the Xenobabes, and you may notice I just only have one brother with me tonight. Marcus, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Quag. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you tonight. It's going to be
Me as
good.
well.
Yeah.
Should be a lot of fun. Just, no distractions from the squirrel or the bear. It's just going to be
Exactly.
a Cwag and Marcus episode tonight, so should be fun. But hey, before we dive into kind of what we wanted to talk about tonight, we have merch. How exciting
We
is that?
do.
So
Yes.
I did
Yes.
want to drop, the link just mentioned. I'm going to ask our editor, Matt, in post if he can, put the link also in the show notes. But I'm just going to go ahead and read it out for you. As I'm looking at it here, it's a little bit longer than I'd probably would be good for a podcast. But maybe I'll look into seeing if that domain is still available. But anyway, the link is brothers dash from dash another dash mothership dash shop .fourthwall.com. So check it out. We also have it in the Discord. Like I said, I'm asking see if we can get those in the show notes there for you. But yeah, check it out. We got some cool mugs, got a shirt, and I've already had some requests for some other things coming down the pike. So who knows? Maybe in the future we'll have hoodies, stickers. I'm trying to remember what else they even have as an option. But yeah, we got merch now. So now we're an official podcast, right?
Exactly.
So
I'm looking forward to picking up one of those mugs. I haven't done it
Oh
yet,
yeah,
but I'm going to get that
I
order
had to
in.
go ahead and get it,
Yep.
and I got my shirt, and who knows? Like maybe come this Christmas later this year, just my whole family, they're just gonna get BFAM shirts, and they're gonna be like,
That's
"What the
right.
hell is this?" I'm like, "Well, you're
Yeah.
about to learn."
That's right. Yeah.
So, well, very good. Well, hey, this is a BFAM classified episode, so kind of outside of our normal rotation, like I mentioned before, but topic that kind of came up in one of our earlier shows, but just didn't really have the time to let it kind of come to full fruition. I kind of we wanted this episode to be about get your fitness on, kind of going off the channel in the Discord that's actually gotten fairly popular. It seems like everyone's in there talking about, how they're lifting or they're trying to lose weight, going for runs, walks. So just really loving seeing all the activity that the fellow BFAM crew is doing. And actually kind of want to give Crocodile some love because really it was his question in episode 2, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it here. He asked the brothers in 2025, looking back, what is something you are proud of related to your health? So kind of spurred a conversation that we had, and I think Marcus at the time said he had a lot of thoughts, but didn't want to go into it, which I don't blame him. We were I think at that point 3 hours into the episode, but
It's true. Yeah.
I kind of wanted to hold on to that and be like, you know what, Marcus, I want to hear what those thoughts are, right? So this is just going to be a fitness episode, health, and really just kind of want to chat with Marcus about that tonight. So Marcus, we kind of talked, beforehand, but, you actually for a living, like, are a dietitian, right? So, I mean, like, kind of what got you interested in, either that, kind of health and fitness from the point that you'd want to, basically go to school regarding that.
Well, it's kind of funny because I went back to get my dietitian certification. So initially, I'd always been in I liked sports.
Mm-hmm.
Video games was a hobby, of course, but
Yep.
I was definitely a pretty I played everything. Hockey was as a a good Canadian kid that I
Of
am.
course. It's
Yeah,
required, right?
I played hockey, all throughout my childhood into high school. Um, and I golfed a lot in the summertime, but I pretty much played a lot of everything. So when I was looking to go to university, um, I wanted to pick something where I was interested in. And
Hmm.
so I actually didn't start out in this major, but I ended up getting there after a couple of early, changes. And I ended up doing my undergraduate in kinesiology. And I was always gravitated towards more the sciency part of kinesiology. It wasn't so much like the coaching; it was more like what's going on inside the body. That was
Mm.
always really my interest in kind of like how your body, I don't know, uses the fuel that it gets, and I was interested at the time. There's performance enhancing drugs. There had been a lot of scandals in around that
Oh,
time
right.
because of the late '90s, right? And so I was really interested in that, and so I ended up staying at the same university that I did my undergrad. Stayed on to do my master's in that area, and we were studying, or I was studying, how your muscles metabolize fat, and how it chooses which types of fat to metabolize, and we were looking at a particular enzyme that was doing that. So I graduated with my master's, and I didn't want to continue with grad school, but I liked that area. I kind of, worked in different academic positions, like just as, research assistant, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I couldn't really see a path forward unless I wanted to get my doctorate, which I didn't. So I was kind of looking for other kind of career options, and I was like, I really do like nutrition. And uh, I was looking for and I could be a dietitian. Sports dietitian is what my initial thought was.
Okay.
Um, it hasn't worked out that way, and I'm not sure that that's a route that I would have wanted to go once I kind of learned a little bit more. That high performance athlete wasn't really. I was never like a high performance athlete. I was more very much. I liked all sports, but very much a recreational athlete. So, but I ended up going back to school to get my dietitian certification, and I've been a practicing dietitian, for about 15 years now, I guess.
Wow.
Um, but I don't work in like kind of a traditional dietitian role. When people think of dietitian, or at least when I thought of a dietitian, it was more like, somebody counseling, people, whether they're in maybe sick in hospital, and then you have to kind of like come up with diets for people like that have, you know, diabetes or heart
Sure.
disease and stuff like that, or whether it was counseling people to lose weight and things like that. And I actually work in as a researcher, a research coordinator now. Um, and we do not really that at all. We're doing like work on motivation and like what barriers families face. I do mostly pediatric work right now. Um, so I'm not really practicing in kind of a traditional dietitian role, but it's definitely, I think, been beneficial to have the background that I do to kind of like transition into the role that I am. So when this topic came up the other episode, it was like I could talk. You could get me going. You got to stop me because like I got to try to stop myself. We're already 3+ hours into this show. Like, um, let's focus on the video games for now. We can talk about that other stuff later. And I guess today's later.
Yeah. And oh, Matt, sorry. I guess this might be another 3-hour episode. So he might kill us if we
Yeah,
actually make it that long. But
yeah. Well,
well,
we'll
that's
we'll, we'll
awesome.
try to keep it reasonable for
Yeah, just
Matt.
2.5. No worries,
Yeah,
Matt. Don't worry
yeah,
about it.
exactly.
Uh, well, hey, that's really fascinating because honestly, I don't know. I don't know until now if I actually know anyone that is a dietitian. Like, I know it's obviously a career, but I just have never really stumbled across anyone who is. So it's pretty cool. Um, well, hey, main reason why I really want to ask you about it is that, I know I shared in one of the earlier episodes that, um, I kind of went on this like fitness journey. I've always kind of like you, like really been into sports. So it's not that I haven't been active, but obviously when you get married and have kids, right, you're not really as active. And I'm not out there playing, soccer like 5 days a week like I was in high school. And just, life catches up with you, right? And fast forward 10 years and of, going to work and a lot of a lot of the jobs I've worked in my career, especially after college, have just been desk jobs. So obviously, you're not really that active doing that either, right? So it doesn't take much calculus to figure out that, that's probably not going to do well in terms of living a fit life, right? Especially because I was probably one of those kids that I was blessed with a high metabolism. Like when I was, fit playing soccer, like I said, 5 days a week, I wasn't really eating that great. I mean, I kind of ate whatever I wanted, and I was a big soda drinker, so not exaggerating, especially during like summer break, like 6 Mountain Dews, no problem, like in a day, and that's not good for you, right?
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that I guess I was so active and had a high metabolism that you didn't really look at me and see, any of that, right? But obviously that type of stuff catches up with you later on, like I mentioned. So it was really when I started having back pain 2 years ago that I'm just like, all right, this is not going to work. I feel like I'm too young. I feel like that's something that, someone 40 years older might be complaining about, right? But not someone who's not even 40 yet. But yeah, really felt like that's when I had to get, some type of investment in it just because I felt like this was too early to, be going through this type of pain. So,
And so
um,
I'm curious because I'm always a little bit curious. How
yeah.
did that? So obviously that there was some motivation. Like it was like, okay, I've got an impetus to actually like now do something. And what then did you do? What was your first step? Did you go see a dietitian? Did you talk to your doctor? Did you kind of just do it all on your own? Or was there you're talking to friends? Like what was the pathway for you to kind of like get that first step going?
So yeah, good question. So I mean, I didn't go to like an actual dietitian or anything like that, but I would do like my primary care doctor. I'd go
Yep.
there like once, at least once a year for like the physical, right? So got to the point that yeah, it was kind of hard to hear, but she's like, hey, you're obese now, and
Mm,
really you need to look at, losing weight. You probably need to start some type of activity. I think she even just recommended at least doing like 20-minute walks a day type thing at minimum. I mean, obviously there's more you could do, right? But she was saying like, yeah, you just got to start being more active. And then I think I remember when she said that to me, it's like obese, like, this, you know, I think now, like if I look at old pictures of me, I see it, but like when you're in it,
it's a
I didn't
very
see it.
loaded word. I mean, there's
Yeah,
a whole area of kind of like this, the language that we use in obesity or weight management. We don't call our clinic an obesity clinic. It's pediatric weight management. That's what,
right.
right? And so like it is a loaded word, and I think that it
Hmm.
comes with um right or wrong, I think it comes with a lot of negative connotations with it. So it
Yeah.
certainly I could appreciate very much that hearing that just that word would not sit great, right?
Yeah, and then, I'd like to tell you that I started, like, walking that afternoon after she
Right.
told me that, but no, I kinda didn't. I kinda got angry. I guess it's the whole, like, 5 stages, right? Like, I remember getting angry. It's like, this doesn't seem right. Like, I can't
Yeah.
be obese. I remember talking to my wife about it, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, no way," and, just that whole, like, kinda, anger, denial type thing. Um, but, really, it was the back pain. Like,
Mm,
I work in Metro Atlanta, so if you guys know anything about Atlanta, they're known for bad traffic. So I mean, like I'd be in the car on the way to work, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, and I would be almost in tears by the time I got there, just because like sitting in that car that long just did not just exasperated the pain for whatever reason, and it's like okay, well, is it because I'm overweight? Because I didn't have the issue when I wasn't, and
right.
so started walking and nothing else. Like I was still eating the same, but it actually didn't say I wouldn't say it completely gone away, but it got better. And it was like one of those things that like I could feel like where the pain was, but it wasn't actually as painful. It's kind of hard to describe it. Like I could kind of feel that there's something there that didn't feel right, but at least it wasn't painful anymore. So I'm assuming that, just being more active, that maybe, using some muscles that were not used as much before, gained a little bit of strength, right? Because I was pretty diligent. I mean, I basically, um, almost every day, I'd at least be out there walking, 20, and then I think I increased to 25. And usually I have more time on the weekends, try to like go for like 30 minutes or so. So, I mean, like I was getting a good amount of miles each week. And when you compare it to the nothing I was doing before,
Sure.
sitting on the couch, and obviously mentioned having a desk job, but I mean, my hobby was also not really that great for it too, right? Like I'm either sitting on the couch or sitting in a computer chair playing games. So
Yep.
getting some type of activity obviously helped in some capacity. So
Yeah, and so quickly did you start to see the improvements? Are things like, I'm gonna guess that we weren't all of a sudden you're starting to drop pounds or anything, but I'm assuming that probably you're starting to see some of that, like you kind of mentioned some pain relief
mhm.
fairly early, right?
Yeah, and when I started walking, I I don't have a good reason for it, but like I think it was one of those things that, um, I think a lot of people were asking me like after I lost a lot of weight. It's like, oh man, when was the last time you weighed that much? It's like I haven't weighed myself in decades. Like it
Right.
was just one of those things that like I just didn't want to know, and
Hmm.
like obviously you're buying new clothes and everything, so really, that first little bit it might have been about a year. Like all I did was really walk, and I did not weigh myself. Like I said, I wasn't eating anything differently, so probably not eating the best. Definitely having the larger normal portion sizes for me at the time. And I think it was getting that strength. Maybe in that lower back that was being painful for me. But if I lost any weight, it was very negligible. I mean, I felt like everything still fit the same.
Sure.
Um, it was really my wife. Like she mentioned that she had a friend that had this app, and if you got those weight loss app companies, if you guys are listening, um I'd be if you want to sponsor, I'd be happy to drop which
Yep.
ones we're using, but I'm not going to give free advertising. But yeah, basically one of these apps that just I mean, it's not super fancy. It's just a calorie tracker, right? So,
Yep.
um, but she started using it like end of May. Like I think we went on a camping trip, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna last, right? And then I decided that hey, like my doctor told me like a year ago that you need to lose weight, and um, really, at least for me, like if you do something with someone, I think it's going to go better than if you do it alone. A lot
Yep.
of times, just because you have a little bit of an accountability partner, and she cooks like 99% of what we eat. Now, I clean up 99%, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm not helping. But you don't really want to eat what I cook. I mean, I guess you could lose a lot of weight eating what I cook,
Yeah.
um, but doing that with her, I think really helped because I started like maybe a week after her, but basically, just tracking our meals. We bought like a food scale, so we're weighing exactly how many ounces of chicken we're eating and how many calories that could be.
How much of a change did it end up being once you're starting to actually track? Like, was it like, oh my God, this is like half of what I was eating before? Or was the food choices also, did you kind of like, I'm curious to know how big a change the dietary thing was initially. Like, was it drastic or was it kind of more incremental?
I feel like it was pretty drastic
Yeah.
because I was one of those people that like when it was dinner time in particular, if I wasn't stuffed, then that
Mm,
must mean I need to eat more.
right.
And I've even learned that like earlier or I'm sorry, end of last year, like when I was doing kind of more maintenance calories, I wouldn't necessarily still eat till I was stuffed, right? Like, it's almost kind of like um you can stop when you're content, right? You don't have to be almost to the point where you feel like you're because I mean that'd be one of those things I think it took me the longest to realize is that sometimes I'd go out to dinner and like I almost kind of feel a little sick to my stomach after because I shouldn't have finished everything that was on my plate, right? And I think that I always thought that that was just so normal, like that's just
Hmm.
eating, like that's sometimes that you're gonna feel, but like after since I've done this, like I can count on like one or two fingers like when I've ran into that because now I've just learned that like hey, like you can just be content. You don't have
Yeah.
to be like filling every little corner of your stomach with food or whatever type thing. Like you don't need to be like full, like all the way full, I guess. But yeah, like in terms of like portion sizes though, like it felt like my plate was you're not seeing any at the bottom of the plate. It's just full of everything.
Hmm.
And obviously, we probably could have moved the smaller plates because we had a lot of
Right.
lot of empty space on that plate. But outside of like after the first week, I remember the first week being really rough. That like even after eating what we were supposed to, like every calorie, I was still hungry. But like after like a week, 2 weeks, a month, like what you have, we were fine with. Like we weren't complaining. I mean, we were probably focusing more on like your proteins and veggies because I think we learned pretty quickly that, if you load up on like rice or like some other carbs, like, you're getting a lot of calories, but you're not really getting like any protein that should help you not be hungry.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was really what our focus was, and you know, I felt like making us fairly successful because like there was very few instances where even with those lower calorie accounts that like we weren't satisfied to an extent. Of course, we
Okay.
could have eaten more, but it wasn't to the point that we felt like we were starving.
Right. And did the types of foods you eat change a lot, or was it more just a portion size thing?
I want to say it's more of just the portion size
Yeah.
because, like, she kept making the same like chicken that we would have before. Like I said, probably increasing. Like I felt like before, like we would still have like that protein, that veggie. Like I said, usually like a wild rice or something. We cut out the wild rice with this.
Hmm.
So probably maybe adding a little bit more vegetables. Of course, probably not as much of the protein that we were eating before. But I was one of those people that like I would not be shy about getting seconds. If I really liked it, getting thirds. Again, just kind of going to that point like where I felt like that unless I was stuffed or full, then
Yep.
clearly I could eat more, right?
Right.
And I kind of came from a family too. Now I'm not blaming them, but it was kind of one of those things you gotta finish your plate type
You got
thing,
to eat
right?
your plate.
And
Same, really. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like one of those things now that like I go back and forth with my kids because you're mentioning that you actually focus on like childhood um, weight management and like um, I'm struggling with getting my kids to eat like spaghetti and
Mm.
pizza and chicken nuggets, which should be at least to me like easy. Like I could understand like okay, you're gonna fight me on the broccoli, I get it. You're gonna fight me on like the asparagus, but like you're gonna fight me on pizza. It's like this is supposed to be a fun night. Like it
Yeah.
should be, and it's just like one of those things that like okay, well if I had this complex that maybe started when I was a kid where I had to
Mm.
finish my plate and here I am doing it like 20 years later, I guess that wasn't really that good for me. But at the same time, I feel like they need to eat something. So I don't know. But it's definitely
Kids will
a double edged
typically, I
sword.
guess, I mean, I don't counsel kids, but like
Yeah.
kids will eat when they're hungry. Like they'll
Yeah.
eat, and I think like sometimes um as parents you know we put our stuff on them. Like they'll eat. And I think like in terms of like the pickiness, you know, um good being a good role model is probably like number one.
Yeah.
So showing them that you're eating stuff, it's not they don't get necessarily get like a special meal for them because you're eating they eat what you eat. But also like if they're hesitant, you still give them the opportunity to eat it. Don't force it down their, don't make them finish it if they don't want it. But then
Yeah.
if they don't like something, then or if they don't want something that one time, that doesn't mean they never will want it. You try again.
Right.
You try again a few times. And I think like that those are it's not always going to work in every situation, but those are kind of like several strategies. Being the good role model and then repeated kind of attempts to expose them to foods that they may not be familiar with or may not like at first. Those like those are the two main strategies that help with kids like that. So yeah, I know it's this whole thing is just it is a lot more complicated, I think, than um people appreciate. Because at its essence, you know, being at a healthy weight or being kind of like just if we're just talking about body weight, like
Uh-huh.
it's all like calories in versus calories out. Like that's what the fundamentally that's what it is. The complexity comes in like how do you manipulate that equation and what factors affect that equation because there
Mm.
are can be literally dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of things that are coming in and affect that calories in, calories out model. So like stare at like this kind of like traditional advice. And I'd be curious like what your experience was with your family doctor. Was like doctors are not always, some family physicians are great. A lot of them have don't get like specific kind of like weight management type training. So they kind of like parrot oftentimes some pretty you know not so great sort of kind of talking points. Well, you know, you got to lose weight. Just get out, eat less, move more. That's kind of like a eat less, move more. It's easy. Like just do it. It's like, well,
Duh, why didn't I think of that?
I know. First off, everybody already knows that. And then second off, it's like but how do you as an individual, there's like what about you that has
Mm,
kind of um led to the circumstances of kind of your situation? And everybody's different, right? Everybody's different. All the history that they have kind of growing up, as we kind of like what our parents kind of like the environment that they created for us. Because like as a
yeah.
kid, in these pediatric weight management clinics, they treat the family, they don't treat the kid.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
you know it's like there are definitely times, you know, especially when the kids are younger, that the clinicians are not even meeting with the kids, because
Mm,
the kids are not the ones making the most of the
right.
decisions, right?
Yep.
So
Makes sense.
it's really so anyways, there's lots of different things, you know, genetics, your own biology can be different, you know. I happened to be blessed. um I come from family where a lot of people, actually my dad's side less so, but definitely on my mom's side, skinny, 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 skinny. And so I've definitely taken after that, because you know I definitely have habits and dietary things that are not, definitely far from ideal. I know this,
Hmm.
you know, and I think like, and you know, for everybody's going to have their own kind of like lines, I guess, like what they're willing to kind of do to kind of achieve what they want, right? And so
Right.
like, um, because some people will like they'll do something. Okay, I cut out soda, and I help, you know, and that's okay for me. Like I can deal with that. But
Hmm.
like cutting out dessert completely forever,
Yep.
that's not going to happen. That I'm willing to be 5 pounds heavier or whatever if I don't have to do that ever. Or maybe I can just figure out a way to do it a little bit less, right? And so like you're always kind of like negotiating with yourself about like, well, what am I prioritizing here? And I think like that's okay, but we have to be honest with yourself about what it is you're kind of willing to do, because all this stuff requires effort. And like I really commend what you've done, because you have lost a fair amount of weight, which means you've had to make some fairly significant changes to what you were doing before.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And yeah, when you mentioned like, yeah, like I'm not gonna live my whole life without dessert, right? Like I think that was like probably what made me resistant for so long to like even attempt. It's like,
Hmm.
well, I'd rather just be fat and happy, like type thing, right? And like
Hmm.
um I think what I learned by going through it is that it's not necessarily you're swearing off, you know, whether it be dessert or soda, like you mentioned, or whatever. It's more of a thing like, well, I probably need to choose something. Like where before I'd have a soda, I'd have a like you say if it's like at the 4th of July picnic, I'd have a soda, I'd have the hot dog, I'd have the hamburger
Right.
and the bratwurst. It's like,
Right. It
okay,
was
well,
more of an and rather than a
exactly. And
this
so
or
maybe
this. Yeah.
maybe today I'll have the bratwurst and then maybe I'll have a leftover burger tomorrow type thing. So it's kind of like one of those things that like I still am kind of eating everything I want. It just may not be all at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like for me too, like I think, you know, like I said, my diet's not perfect, you know, but
Yeah.
I think I choose the things that I think kind of give me the most bang for my buck. Like
Hmm.
not trying not to eat out that much. We eat out on average maybe once a week.
Yep.
But otherwise I'm cooking, you know, from scratch. I like my vegetables, Ron. I like my vegetables. So you know, we incorporate vegetables into every meal.
Hmm.
I try to be eating a fruit or a vegetable at least with every meal, at least one. Um, and you know, you do these types of things that feel manageable and are kind of like getting you. Could I eat healthier? Probably. Well, almost certainly I could. But for me, there is also kind of like it's a balance, right? And I think that those are generally speaking more healthier approaches to take, because if at the end of the day, whatever you end up choosing to do, you have to do it forever, basically, right? This is not like if you go back to anything that you were doing before, then so does your body or your health or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And so like it's not a temporary thing. Everything that you choose had to do has to be sustainable for you. And so
Right.
if it's and you know if the data scientific data is very clear. The most restrictive diets are the least successful in the long term, right? So I think it's just really important to kind of keep that in mind. You have to be honest with yourself.
Yep.
You can't cheat about it. And you know, I think one of like the one phrase that I hate, my dad uses it all the time. Anything in moderation. It's always in moderation. Anything in moderation. It's like you say that every time. Well, then it's not moderation anymore, right? Like
Mm,
so you do have to be honest with yourself, and you can't, cheat the whole system. But at the same time, you have to be realistic about it too, and so figure out something that is going to be sustainable for you, because that line is going to be different for everybody to a certain extent, right? And I
yeah,
think
and
that's
I think
okay.
all yeah, and that is okay.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 16 being not being an RPG is not okay,
not
but
okay.
yeah,
This is
being
okay.
okay with it, with okay with yourself with that.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, like I mean, I think I really think that part of that I really what really resonated with me is that I think a lot of the stuff like before I just didn't even know what it was. Like, this cup of rice is actually 300 calories, and like I didn't know that before. And then I learned that like, oh, well, this cup of kale is like 40 calories. And it's
yeah,
like, well, shoot, I could
yeah,
basically almost eat as much of this stuff as I want
yeah,
by comparison, where, maybe don't don't necessarily get hopped up on like the calorie dense stuff. Not that you can't enjoy it, to your point, but like you just got to be cognizant of how much that is, type thing, if
yeah,
you have that goal in mind, right? So
yeah.
um
People just in general, and I suspect like it's been a while since I studied this stuff, and I think but portion size, people are notorious at poorly estimating how big like the portion sizes are. Like you could, I have more knowledge than the average person, and I probably am underestimating how much rice I put on my plate. Even if I think
mhm,
it's a reasonable amount, it's probably I could be off by 50%.
yeah,
Like I see, because I'm not using a scale like yourself, right? So, like people are really bad at that stuff. So that is one of the real advantages to using one of these calorie tracking fitness type apps. It can seem like a little overwhelming at first, and it does take a bit of work, but it does get easier the more often that you do it. And it really helps to conceptualize how much how many calories are in whatever, like a certain volume of food. We used to use like they would tell us to do like a serving of protein, like meat or chicken or something,
mhm,
is the size of a deck of cards. They would always give us like these analogies. Or this is like a cup is like the size of a tennis ball or something like that, right? And so it's like when you think of like if I cook a chicken breast that I'm getting in the supermarket today, it's probably like 3 to 4 size decks of cards almost. Like
right.
it's a lot more than a deck of cards. Like if you put a deck of cards on your plate, like this plate that you said is now very empty, like that's why it's empty, because our plates are bigger, all the portions are bigger, right? Um so anyways, the kind of going off a bit, but like the tracking really does help to put all of that stuff and kind of reframe how much we actually eat. Like, because it's more than what we need. Most people eat more
Right.
than what they need, right?
Oh yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. And like what I find helpful with like the tracking is that like I'm one of those people that I don't really like surprises, and I'd like to tell you, like, I'm already kind of know what I'm eating like tomorrow, right? And like, I kind of know if I have this for breakfast, then actually I have more that, because I know I'm going out to dinner and I could
Mm-hmm.
probably splurge a little more there, right? And, I know probably like my wife is the exact opposite, right? She's very spontaneous, and I think that's
Okay.
probably why, I think, she still has lost weight too, but I think it probably hasn't worked as well for her because, yeah, she isn't like me, like planning her week out. Like, this is what I'm gonna have because I
Mm,
like, for example, like my breakfast is like the same basically every day. It's just like very
right.
simple and, but yeah, she likes to mix it up, and I definitely can understand that. But uh, I'm very boring. Same
Mm.
thing every day until I get tired of it. Maybe like 5 years from now.
See, I like variety too, to be honest, but I do also do a lot of the planning. So we plan our menu every. Lindsay does the grocery shopping, but we sit down and we plan a menu before she goes shopping, and we have our meals planned. And we kind of like what I really like to do is I make a little bit extra of the dinner, and then I eat it for lunch the next day.
Same.
So that's what I'm always doing is I usually have leftovers for the next day, and then breakfast. I do pretty much the same. I have like two breakfasts that I kind of alternate over the course of the week, but it's pretty much two breakfasts that I eat. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of eggs, and
Mm,
I can't get enough of them. I feel like I maybe mentioned before that you're not the biggest egg guy,
I'm
right?
not a big egg guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've come to tolerate them a little bit more. When I was a kid, I you would it was like one of the foods, one of the few foods just did not like. I still don't like hard boiled eggs, but if they're scrambled, particularly if they're in something, I like a good
Mm.
breakfast burrito. I'm a big fan of, and um, when they're kind of mixed in with other stuff, but not my favorite by themselves, but that has nothing to do with the nutrition. The eggs are a great a great nutritional kind of like protein source, and yeah, they're good nutritionally, just not my favorite.
Probably gross you out because my favorite way, especially if I have like a slice of toast with it, which wasn't really doing when I did the deficit, but do over medium, get the runny egg going,
It's
runny
okay.
yolk.
That's
Oh,
okay. I
okay.
actually don't mind that. Yeah, I don't mind it. Again, like I think of like on like a tostada or something like that. Have a
Mm.
runny egg. That's good. That's okay. Lindsay does not like that though. You got to have
Oh,
cook
my wife
that
doesn't
yolk
either.
all
No.
the way through. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's funny.
she doesn't like
Yeah,
it either. My wife doesn't like it either, but
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like there for a minute, like I was having like 4 eggs for breakfast every day, like
Okay,
when I was just maintaining. I was trying to, well, actually at that point I was like trying to do maybe build a little bit of muscle, trying to
okay.
tack on extra protein, but
Yeah,
I don't know how much that actually worked.
yeah. I mean, you could get me on any one of these topics. I could go for a while. So we eat way more protein than we need. Like the average person eats way more protein than we need. So you're probably like again, if you ate like one chicken breast in a day, that would probably be enough protein to build muscle.
Huh.
Yeah. So it doesn't hurt to have more than that necessarily. It's just it's not going to you're not going to use the extra protein to build muscle. You've got enough in there. Actually
Hmm.
the types of athletes that require the most protein is actually like endurance athletes, like the things like cross country skiers and like long distance runners
Okay.
require the most protein because you're breaking down a lot more, and they use the protein to kind of just sustain, not necessarily build more muscle. Anyways, people are getting plenty of protein just in general. In the North American diet, we get lots of protein. Um, protein is fine to have kind of like a higher percentage, but you could get 10, well, maybe more than 10, 20% of your calories from protein, and that's more than enough. Yeah.
Wow. So if GNC is listening right now, they're not going to like that. You're not going
Probably
to have them
not.
selling
Yeah.
any whey protein.
Yeah. Yeah. You like requirements are usually like um it's been a little while since I did it. It's 1 gram. This is so you're in the US, so I don't know how much this means. 1 gram per kilo of body weight is what your protein
Hmm.
requirements are.
All
So
right.
like
Let's see if my American education will help me. I want to say like 1 kilo is about 2 pounds.
2.2 pounds. Yep.
I was close.
Yep. Yep. But the gram. So like for me, I'm about uh, what am I about 65 kilos, I think. See, we do our measurements in pounds too, but so like if I had one, so I would need 65 grams of protein to meet my requirements. Now, if I went up
Hmm.
to 100 grams of protein, if you again measure 100 grams of like a chicken breast is almost all protein. There's very little fat in a chicken breast and very little carbs in a chicken breast. Like one chicken breast might be 100 grams of protein. Like so, You don't need as much as you think. And protein kind of is, I think, one of the, I don't know, one of the types of nutrition things that is hot right now. Get lots of protein, lots of protein. So you don't need as much as what they say.
Yeah, here Starbucks is trying to put it in their coffee now. They're just trying to like,
Yeah,
protein everywhere. Yeah.
yeah. Not no. Wasn't there for a little while people putting butter in their coffee? That was like one of
Oh
the.
God.
I think there was a like Silicon Valley guy was big on butter in his coffee. Yeah,
No, thank you. Oh
I
my
know.
goodness. Love coffee, but that'd be like one of the last things I'd want to put. Actually, I
Horrible.
love butter too, but I would not put them together.
No, no, no. Yes, it was a thing. Look it up.
That's all. That's awful.
Yeah, yeah.
That is awful.
Mhm.
Well, I kind of wanted to turn the tables a little bit. Like, so, obviously, you got your degree in kinesiology. Probably just butchered that.
I got it.
Dietitian, and I mean, so like you mentioned that you kind of I guess with all that background, you probably know like what you should or shouldn't eat, but like, I guess you must get into a groove at some point because you kind of you have a knack or a feeling of like knowing, what would be something good to do, whether it be an activity or what would be to, ingest into your body. So like, is it just kind of getting to the point where it's just very second nature, not really thinking much about it and being able to do it that way?
Probably. I don't think too much about it, to be honest. I feel like, yeah,
Yeah.
it could be, and maybe it is. When I started my dietitian training, it was definitely like, oh, I'm going back to become a dietitian. I've got to, have uh, an image. Like I've got to make sure if I'm ever go out and I'm in public and people know I'm a dietitian, I got to eat like, very healthy. I can't make it
Right.
so I've got to kind of, and so like, I'm not there anymore. I don't really worry too much about that. But I think like on the whole, I'm probably making healthier choices again than the average person or the average kind of like Canadian or American diet, right? And the way my strategy for doing that, like I kind of said before, is prepping most of our food at home, planning what we're
Yeah.
eating, not putting myself in a situation. I almost never snack. Like there are kind of things I think that I habits that I've developed that are probably on the healthier side or little things that I've done. So like not snacking. We don't have outside of frankly is the last couple of weeks with Christmas time. We don't
Oh,
really
sure.
have
Yeah.
junk food in the house at all. And for snacking, like almost nothing. Um, I don't really eat all that much outside of meal times. Period. Um, and we again cook the majority of our food at home from fresh ingredients, right? And so that those are like almost like the biggest things that I do. But I like a variety of types of foods. I like lots of different types of ethnic foods. We try to hit a lot of different foods from all over the world over the course of the week. Indian
Sure.
curries and Asian dishes,
Oof.
and lots of different things that we're making over the course of the week, and try to make them as much from scratch as possible, right? And then just try to keep portion sizes in check. That's probably something I could probably do better on, to be perfectly honest. But you know, um, it kind of is what it is at this point. So, but yeah, like it's not something that is like it takes up a huge part of my mind share.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like focusing on food all that much. We played last year, maybe switching back to video games. I played a game called Consume Me, which I mentioned on the honorable mention for um, our last episode. And it's a really, really great game. I was super keen to play it because of it was describing a young teenage girl and her. I thought it was more food focused, and it is food focused, but like
Hmm.
kind of like the stressors on this young teenage girl, and seeing her stress so much about everything, including everything she's eating, and kind of like
Mm.
playing this game of like, well, if I don't eat here, then I'll be able to have a energy drink and keep me up later at night so I can study. And you're
Mm,
playing all of these making these calculations in your head, and you can see how that sort of stuff has the potential, at least, to become very, I don't know, detrimental
yeah.
mental health wise. And kind of, so I try to keep steady in that regard, and not ever kind of go down that path. And personally, I don't feel like I ever really have, but I could see you could definitely see, and playing that game really got me into I could see how this could happen. I could
Mm,
really and not, of anybody, I should be able to appreciate it, but I could really appreciate it playing that game. Like, you could really see how somebody could, you kind of start doing something, and you normalize it a little bit, and you normalize that, and then you normalize this, and all of a sudden you're doing this behavior, and you're almost kind of like, how did I even get here? Or do you even realize it, right? So yeah, there's always kind of that tricky balance. You don't want to kind of like become too obsessive about this stuff, I think. And how do you
true.
balance that? How do you balance that? Because I think, um, you kind of have to be a certain degree of obsessive to be able to track all of your food. How do you kind of manage and try to make it so that it doesn't kind of like tip into negative sort of behavior, or something that's
Yeah,
more
I mean,
detrimental?
yeah, I mean, no, good question. I mean, I like to think I'm not there, but I am logging in that app constantly, and I think I shared on the last episode that I've been keeping my streak alive, and I may be getting to the point where it is kind of getting compulsive, but I like to think at least it's a good compulsive. Shoot, I guess I'm not able to see how many days it's been, but I think it's about like 230.
Mm,
So 230 days of just tracking, and um, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm getting to the point where like I'm not eating to try to like hit a goal, because like actually what I've done even this go around is like I'm actually eating all the calories that I'm able to eat. So like if it says that I can eat I don't know, say 1700, like I'm finding things to get up to that point, right?
right.
Whereas I think before I was trying to see like how far down could I go type thing.
Sure.
It's like, well, that's not really healthy. Like, you have to still need to fuel your body to some extent. So, I guess in that regards, I think I did probably catch myself that, this is a marathon in terms of like, you're not going to do this for a week and try to, crash diet type thing that,
Yeah.
when I did it for the first time, I think it was basically about 4.5 months. Right. So, I mean, that's something that you need to try to make it sustainable, right? Or like you mentioned, if it was like so restrictive, then I might have given up after a week or two, right?
Hmm.
So, no, I mean, definitely can be a very tricky balance, and I like to think I haven't gotten there yet, but something I'll have to watch, and maybe keep my wife accountable so that if I'm not doing anything I shouldn't. So,
Where do you see
um,
kind of this journey, say, in 5 years from now for you? I'm curious. Like, where are we going to in ideal world for Quag?
yeah, I mean, I think my wife even jokes with that. Is like, are you gonna be tracking calories 5 years from now? And I'm like, I don't know.
Mm,
Like, I kind of, I kind of think I might, just because I feel like it is actually freeing in a weird way. I don't remember if I've shared this with you before, but I'm a very nerdy budget person. So like, I've been budgeting my money for forever, and actually, budgeting your money kind of frees you up to actually, oh wow, I actually have more money than I thought this month. I can buy this game, or we can go on this trip or whatever type thing. So I kind of find it very similar, is that like, well, now I actually know what I'm eating and what I can eat, and actually I did pretty good today, so maybe I can have that piece of cheesecake later on. And um again, because I think it's just that mentality that I actually like knowing, you know, planning everything out of like kind of what I'm doing or what I will be doing. Actually, I do find that pretty freeing. So who knows? Maybe check with me in 5 years. Maybe I'm not tracking anymore. But I guess what I'm worried about is if I don't, then I might be back where I started, and I
yeah.
don't want that. Um,
Yep.
so
Well, and I mean, I
I
think
think I'm.
I think that's good because I think like I said, early on, like whatever you're doing now, you kind of have to see yourself doing almost indefinitely. Like,
Yeah,
does that mean you have to, weigh your food and log your food for the rest of your life? Not necessarily, but it's probably, some version of that if you want
yeah,
to kind of like stay with kind of see the gains that you've or at least stay with where you're at. You kind of
right.
have to have some version of that. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's good. That's good that you kind of that it's working for you. This doesn't and I think like I said, this is one of the more effective ways, but it's not the only way. So like anybody who's
Right.
listening to this, like you got to find your way, something that works for you. It could be what
Mhm.
Quag's doing. Maybe it's a little more loose like what I'm doing. Maybe it's something different, something entirely different, but it's like you got to figure out what that is for you. And like that was something that I always struggled because I have done a little bit of nutrition counseling, not in recent years, but it was always trying to like, because I think a lot of people would always come to me and say, okay, well, just tell me what I need to do. And it's like, well, I could come up with a diet. I could just you could find a meal plan on the internet. Like
Right.
that's not, that will, as a 1,500 calorie, I could calculate how many calories you need to lose weight and I could give you a meal plan that sets that. But it's like, well, do you like any of the food that's on there? Like that makes a difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes a difference. You've got to figure out what's going to work for you. And so like, um, I always found nutrition counseling kind of frustrating from that perspective because so many people would just come in. So just tell me what I need to eat. It's like, well, I could. That's not going to be success. I can tell you right now that will. And then there's like, no, no, no. Just tell me what I need to eat. That's all I want. Just give me a meal plan. It's like, well, and so I was like, I was always kind of like, well, I guess I could, but let's try to build our own meal plan together. Something
Right.
that it's like you don't cook. So you're just going to start cooking all these new foods that you've never, and it's like people do it with the best of intentions. But I think
Right.
again, it's being like, you have to be honest with yourself about what you're willing to do and figure out something that really is going to work for your situation because again, there's lots of different solutions. You got to pick the one that's going to work for you. Um, and it sounds like you've kind of hit on something that is working for you. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I've um kind of been surprised about how well it's worked. Because I think I remember kind of scoffing when my wife originally mentioned it. It was like, this we're not gonna do this. Like, this seems there's no way. And
Yeah.
as they say, look at us now.
Yeah. Look at where we're at now. So yeah, do you have any like you're doing lots of walking? Do you have any plans to go back, try to get back and playing some soccer or doing I don't know anything else? Like, do you see transition? I mean, do some running, so I'm always like, do you see yourself ever doing running? Do you getting more into doing lifting weights or anything like this? Like, do you see any more fitness kind of goals for yourself moving forward?
Yeah, I think eventually may want to do some. I did lifting in college, nothing serious. Like usually, what all the so yeah, let's go to the gym, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But I could see trying to bulk up maybe a little bit. Nothing crazy. I do kind of like being more of like a lean,
Mm.
physique type thing. I'm not looking to or I can't even I turn my whole body when I'm
Yeah,
backing out of the
yeah,
driveway type thing. But yeah, but I've also not been opposed to the running aspect because I feel like um, did a lot of running playing soccer, right? And
sure.
actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because I know probably part of it reason where you've been actually pretty good at not necessarily being like counting every calorie is that you're pretty active. I mean, like you're
Yeah.
sharing in the Discord that you're running like half marathons and everything like that. So I mean, how much running are you able to do in the week?
Not as much as I'd like, man. It's
More
especially
than me.
yeah, especially with these the weather here, like living in northern Alberta. It's cold at this time of year, and there's lots of snow. So we've actually had a fairly warm week. It's been like hovering around freezing, which is pretty good for this time of year, to be honest. Um, and some of the snow has actually melted. But now it's icy. So
Mm,
got to kind of deal with that. I've got like these treads that I use. Anyways, I'm I've got a half marathon that kind of regretting signing up to, but it basically I sign up for races. I've talked about this in various forums in the past, but like I use races as my accountability. I don't
Okay.
want to um I may not like always go be aiming for my personal best in a particular race, but I also don't want the race to really like just be h- just horrible to run. I want it to be somewhat enjoyable. It's not going to be the most
Sure.
enjoyable, running 21 kilometers, but at least I don't want to be like just completely dead and my performance just be horrible. So that's my accountability is like I sign up for these races. That means I've got to get out. And I'm getting out not as often as I like. It's hard with a 4-year-old who has special needs and is kind of a pretty has is a lot of work. So but three times a week on average, I would say. I
Okay.
get out for a long run on Sundays. That is, Lindsay's always great. She usually takes Miles grocery shopping with her, and I go for my long run on Sunday mornings. So you know, this weekend I'll be doing a 20K run, and then the following Sunday is the race. Um, so yeah, 3 times a week. I'm not doing much else though, Quag, and it's tough because again, I work from home. I'm working mostly on a computer. I would When I was working pre-COVID, I was working on campus. So I'm at the university, the big university here in Edmonton, and I was working mostly on campus or between campus and a clinic, or the pediatric weight management clinic, and it closed over COVID. The clinic closed,
Mm,
so I was mostly working from home. I had a desk on campus, but it's just a computer. I could do that at home, so
right.
I just transitioned fully to working at home, which is convenient. Certainly, having Miles, it's a lot more convenient. But I'm not out of the house as much. So, outside of walking the dog, which I'm doing, at least a good walk every day, but I'm not really doing much else. And one of the kind of perks of working at a university is you have access to the university, nice gym. And
Oh,
I still have access to it, but it's on the other, not on the, it's not super convenient for me to go there because I'm
right.
not on campus. I could just go to work a little early before Miles. Um, so that's something I would love to do more of. I just got to figure out. I probably need to figure out and get a home gym. Lindsay and I have actually been talking about maybe converting one of the rooms in the basement into a home gym to have some weights and some equipment down there to actually. It really is not to bulk up. It's more just to maintain strength. Just to be
Yeah.
a little bit stronger, core strength more than anything, to be honest. And because I'm almost 47 years old. My back gets sore, a lot of neck pain and stuff like that. Again, I'm working and sitting in front of a computer all day. So like that sort of stuff. So I think if I was just stronger, some of these aches and pains would probably not be as much. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Home gym would be awesome. That's probably honestly like something I'd want to look at too, because like getting the idea of like getting in the car and going to a gym just does not
Yeah.
sound nice to me at all. But
Yeah.
I know people do it all the time. But
I
uh,
I wouldn't mind doing it. It's just the schedule thing is just it's not feasible right now.
yeah.
We can't do it. Like Miles has I don't know, don't have to get too much into it, but he has a tracheostomy, so
Mhm.
he has amongst other issues. So always somebody with it's either myself or my wife or his nurse, which we have during the day, has to be with him in case of
Right.
emergency. And so he can never be left with the grandparents. We can't drop him off at,
Mm,
family or friends or get a babysitter. We have to, it's got to be, so we're, you know, a little more limited, in kind of our, ability to kind of just go out to the gym.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, having the
No.
home gym would actually be kind of nice. And, uh, yeah, I think that might be the route that we end up having to go because I feel like it was something that, so we're talking now 5 years. I was doing it, a couple times a week. I just going to the gym. Again, there's no real purpose other than just to get some resistance exercise in. Like I
Sure.
wasn't trying to bulk up. I wasn't nothing like that. But I definitely have noticed more running injuries probably because I'm just not quite as strong, right?
Hmm.
You know, so those seem to be coming a little more frequently than they used to. And I don't think I refuse to accept that it's just because I'm getting older. I feel like it's a strength thing. It's something I could do something about. It's not. I'm not a fatalist about that.
There we go. Glass half full. I like
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Good mentality.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to drop before I get us going with the outro?
I don't think so, man. I think like if anybody who's listening has a take home message, I'll just say like you got to figure it out. Figure out what works for you. You got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to the more that you want to change your body, the more that you've got to change in your behavior. So.
Well, Marcus, I appreciate this counseling session. Send me the bill in the mail, and I'll be sure to
this
get
is
that
the
paid
first
promptly.
one's free, Cwag. The first one's free.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's how it works.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Marcus, where can people find you on the internet?
A few places, I guess. On Blue Sky at Marcus O'Neill 79. I'm in the BFAM Discord. I have a couple other podcasts. You've heard about them already. I'll plug them again, so you'll catch that later. But yeah, it's been great chatting with you, Cwag. It's good to talk some of this stuff through. It's cool.
Yeah, no, this has been a ton of fun. Well, the only place you guys can find me is in the BFAM Discord. I know there's these rumors about the sweet Georgia peach, but I have to say
unfounded.
Unfounded. Yeah. So sorry, Ron.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have just experienced the BFAM Classified File 3 episode of the Brothers from Another Mothership podcast. BFAM, y'all.
BFAM.